Suit up, strap in, warm the tires, and leave on yellow. Time for the MitsuTimes podcast, presented by MitsuTimes.org, the home of the fastest Mitsubishi cars. With your host, Josh.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the MitsuTimes podcast. Today, my special guest is Mr. Richard Blyer. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Of course. You are the owner and driver of one of the hottest 2Gs, among other things. But it was cool seeing you on the Cletus all-wheel drive shootout, and of course, you post a lot of you make it to a lot of events and stuff.
Yeah, I've been building this car for a while, and I feel like, what's the point of building it if I'm not going to race it? So I try to get to every event I qualify for, not qualify, but, kind of fit into, even if I know, 99% of them, I know I have no chance.
Right.
What's the point if I'm not going to go out there and do it? And the way I justify it, for instance, I'm signed up for FL2K for the all-wheel drive versus GTT, which is like my car and then a bunch of 7-second cars. I usually do the private rentals anyway, so at least I'm going to get 4 or 5 passes, and I'm part of the event and all that. So I feel like that's how I justify it. It's like, it's just a little bit more, but I get to be a part of the event, and I'm racing, and I get the car out there, and who knows? Maybe something cool happens, but other than that, it's just for fun.
For sure. And I should mention also the owner of the quickest 2G auto.
Yeah, I was looking at the website, your times to see, because I've been on a big suspension kick lately, trying to figure out what works best for 2G specific auto cars. And I was like, well, let me just see who has fast auto cars and ask them what they're doing or what they've done. And then I realized that I have the fastest auto car. And I told Kevin, I'm friends with Kevin from Kigley Racing, and he really shattered. He crushed me. So, that's a cool micro record. Congrats on that. So shout out, thanks Kevin, appreciate it.
He humbled you,
crushing my dreams of having a record and something.
Yeah.
Now my only record is probably most races entered without a win. I think I'm up there, but anyways, it's all fun.
Well, hopefully we can bring an end to that record.
Yeah.
Well, Richard, I think you have a more interesting story than most. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to this love of DSMs.
Yeah. So my first car was a 97 Eclipse RS 420A front-wheel drive 5-speed car when I was 16 or whatever. And that car got a lot of racing in. When I was younger and a little bit less careful about things, and that car with a cutoff exhaust, an intake, and a 75 shot went 14.4 at 98 or 99 or something. So I'm 38, so that was back in 2003, 4, and 5, I would say, or maybe 4 and 5, my driving years in high school. Got a lot of action. Yeah, and I actually had to have somebody drive the car at the track for me because I was too young to race at the track. You had to be 18. I wasn't 18 yet. Yeah, so I got to watch my car go around the track, which at the time it was, it's crazy to think now, but man, I thought I had a quick car at almost 100 mile an hour trap speed. I think the fastest car was, somebody had, one of the kids had an SRT4. I went 120 or something like that. Wow. And it was the coolest kid around, the fastest car ever. So yeah, it's come a long way, but that's, a few years ago. And so I had that car, the RS, and I don't know. I think it ended up at the junkyard eventually or whatever. And then I played professional baseball for 17 years. Well, year 2 or so of that, 2009, I got the car I have now. It was a front-wheel drive manual car, and It was like a 16G with like 200 million miles on it, and it crank walked, and so I put like a built 6-hole, kind of like the natural progression of everybody. And so it was auto for a while, and it was manual, and it was auto, and it did okay front wheel drive, but I ended up all wheel drive swapping it, and that's when kind of the car kind of did a lot better. But yeah, originally I had, I just kind of circled back to what I was comfortable with when I was looking for a toy. I wasn't, and so when I got this car, it was fine, and it was a good car to mod and everything like that. But throughout throughout my ownership, my situation has changed quite a bit. And I've stuck, I got to the major leagues. I was there for 8 years. I made a little bit of money, but so yeah, I would say that very confidently, no one else that any of my coworkers are messing with 95 Eclipses. So
I would say that's pretty safe to say.
Yeah. So, anyways, I just never really moved on, and I'm sure I could have built some LS, whatever, or fancy something, but, I really enjoy doing the work. I wouldn't feel confident packing up a nicer car. I don't mind cutting this car up and welding it on it, and, diving into whatever I'm diving into that I feel like needs to be messed with. And so for that, I've stuck with it. It's been a fun platform. I've made a lot of friends and everything like that throughout the years of owning this car, and met a lot of cool people and done a lot of cool things. And yeah, we all know that there's better options out there to race, especially like competitively race at the track, like on prep.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, whatever. It's fun. Who cares, right? I'm not trying to, I'm not racing for any other reason, just to have fun and hang out with my friends and stuff like that. So, and all my friends have DSM, so here we are.
I just think that's so cool that you're so passionate about these, because there for a while I was wondering, man, I wonder if this guy was driving a DSM to the stadium and like.
No. I never did. No, that would have been something. A bunch of Lambos and a 95 DSM. That would have been quite the sight to see. No, I have. I have a nice daily, and I got a Tesla Model S Plaid, and that is the thing about that is now all my cars have to be faster than my daily. So that'd be a real shame. And years ago, when my blue car was still on a 6870, I was doing a front side no prep, and there was 2022 Plaid in my class, and I raced him and beat him, and I was like, man, I'm gonna be pretty upset if my daily beats my race car right now. But so yeah, that was good. But yeah, that car is a whole nother topic. That's a fun car. But anyways, yeah, this car is just a toy, and then I just recently built a 93 MR2 with a 4G63 swap as well, auto. So that's more of like a street car that I actually when I'm kidless doing errands, I take the MR2 over the Tesla, and then the kids go and the kids are not. It's not a good idea for the kids in the MR2, but yeah. Anyways, the kids go in the Tesla when we're cruising around with that, when the family stuff. But yeah, I enjoy. I don't know, man. It's just something about the junkers, the '90s junkers that we just can't get away from, and the 4-cylinder stuff too. Like I said, I mean, obviously a V8 or something like that would, an LS, a Coyote, whatever, who knows, anything would probably be a better platform if I was just looking to race and be competitive. But like I said, this is my comfort zone, and it's what I'm going to stick with.
Right. So when you found this 2G, was it just something that was close, or was it just the right deal? everything kind of aligned?
I think that, like, when I was looking, I didn't want to get an all-wheel drive car because I didn't want to deal with more parts to break.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew, like, at the time, I was like, I'll just get, like, a 16G car to drive around and have fun with. And, and my first car, the non-turbo car, well, like, wasn't making any power and didn't spin I had, like, BFG, 225, whatever, 15 drag radials or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't spin. But the car was also making, 200 wheel horsepower probably. And so I figured, like, all right, whatever, I can get the front wheel drive to work on 350 or whatever. So I found a local, at that point in 2009, that was still a while ago. The DSMs were a little bit more abundant, I would say, where now they're kind of like, there wasn't $15,000 DSMs really back then. It was
right.
all, my car was like $3,500 or something.
Mm-hmm.
For a running, driving, clean car that was tuned and ready to go.
Right.
Which, obviously, that's just not the case now. So yeah, I wanted to get into something, and that was that, and it just kind of, like everybody else, right? You just kind of slowly get to wherever you're comfortable with. And like I said, like, instead of changing platforms, I just bought all the fancy, everybody gets me with the billet parts and whatever. So yeah.
Well, Richard, how do you compare baseball to drag racing?
For me, I mean, baseball was my job, so it was just very serious all the time. There's just so much on the line for baseball. Every pitch I threw was determining my future.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and just to, there's millions of dollars on the line every pitch, really. And so with that kind of stress and that kind of pressure, that's why, like, racing, it's not that serious for me at all. Like, I like to know prep, but I don't do, like, the grudge stuff. I'm not going to sit there and argue with people or whatever. It's just, like, it's fun. It's something fun to do with my friends. And so it's almost the complete opposite. It is the complete opposite of baseball. I'm not I mean, I've been doing a lot of this no prep stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I would love to win or whatever, but I'm not gonna, like, sit out there and deflate someone's tire or whatever to win. It's just not that serious for me. Like I said, I'm just having fun. So to compare baseball to racing, it's for me personally, I don't take it that serious, and it's hard to see, like some of these no prep, these guys are like, these like hardcore grudge racer guys, like street racer guys, and they're just like yelling and screaming and whatever. And I was like, dude, whatever. All right, you win. Who cares? Give me a break. And so that's kind of my mentality for it. Like I said, I just, I get frustrated with racing when things don't work out that I had planned. I think for me personally, the things that bring me enjoyment are having a plan and then seeing that succeed, which is a big part of baseball. I would do a lot of prep work and figure out how I'm going to attack each hitter, and then when that works out, that's gratifying for me. And the same thing with the car. Like, okay, I want to, add this much boost or leave on this much boost or whatever, this kind of boost curve, and then when it works out and the car goes quicker or faster, then I feel like that's the reward I'm looking for out of my racing program.
For sure, I relate to that a lot. I feel like there's nothing better than a plan that's well executed. Well, Richard, let's talk about the current setup on your 2G. What's going on under the hood?
Yeah, so right now, this second, nothing at all is under the hood. The motor is out of the car. So the last race I did was a TRC Invitational, no prep, backside of the track, Orlando, and after that one, the next thing is the shootout. So that was in May, and now, so I have a few months here till. So I figured it was a good time to take the setup out and go through it. I installed some parts in the transmission, put a fresh head on the car. But the hard parts, it's a Force Engineering 6-volt, 2-liter, filled block, aluminum rod motor, Y-scope piston. Let's see. The head is a Porting Solutions, which is a company down here in South Florida. It's a Porting Solutions 7-bolt, I only run the 7-bolt head. Just, I don't know, whatever. Kigley valve springs, and I don't even know what valves are in there. I have like a few different cylinder heads floating around, like a couple spares and whatever, and I just don't know what parts are in what anymore. So I have the JMF drag billet intake manifold with I had 1300 ID 1300 primaries and 2600 secondaries, but I'm switching to 8 to 2600 primaries now. So 8 2600s I'll be running. The turbo is a 6785 Precision, the Sportsman turbo with I don't even know the guy's company, but this Ralphie, his name, he's like a friend of mine, built the manifold for me, and it's like a forward facing right under the headlight. Mm-hmm. Set up now with and the car's on 1R ethanol, and I have the Aeromotive 7 gallon per minute brushless pump. So it made 1,040 in second gear on this current setup. It's a very new setup. I've only raced on it once or twice. No prep. I've not been to the track on prep yet. So we'll see. I'm going to go do some testing before the shootout, but so we'll see. The car has gone 840 at 163 on a 72-75. So I'm hoping for at least that or better is the goal with this setup, because it's the 6785 is much better and bigger turbo than the 72-75 kind of.
Right. I think it'll play along with auto a little better.
Yeah. So the auto trans it's got the Kigley billet drum. I just switched out from the Jeff Bush forward drum to the, oh boy, he's gonna get mad at me. The Chris's forward drum. I don't know the name of his company. That's not good. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but I don't even know if he has the name of the company, honestly. Sorry, Chris. I'm looking it up.
Okay.
Is it something?
Well, I seen you post something, so I was trying to see if you said something.
No, I didn't say the name. Okay. I don't know what it is. Anyway, whatever. There's only one person who makes them now, so I missed out on it. But anyways, I just switched out. His uses stock style clutches, and the Bush drums use like a whatever, his steels and drums or whatever that you can't really find anymore. So you're kind of really tied down by that. So I figured I could get some replacements with this one. So I switched that out. I have a Quaife LSD diff that was just installed a couple days ago. Transfer gears, standard transfer, straight cut transfer gears. I got all the auto parts. I think that, and the Kigley planetary. Thank Kevin for that. I was one of the ones who tested the planetaries when he got some prototypes. Mm-hmm. So that's when I went and did a rental, and he wanted me to do 10 hits on the planetaries and then send them back. So I got him in. I did like one street hit, one no prep event, and so I think I was at like 5 passes, and then I did a rental, and I went like 8.6, 8.5, 8.4, 8.4, And so I was, I was like, all right, I'll do one more pass or something, and just something was wrong with the speed sensor, so the launch control wasn't activating. And the car, I left in first, and it wheel hopped real bad and like broke everything. So on my 10th pass, I was like, Kevin, I didn't make 10 passes. I made like 9 and 8 or whatever, whatever. 9 and a 60-foot. So I hope that's good enough data for you, bud. But I ended up unwelding the welded center diff and breaking a couple other things along the line there. But yeah, other than that, I'm not like, I don't have a mechanic background. Anything I learned on this car, through trial and error with the help of some people type thing. So I just kind of have thrown it together as needed.
Doing pretty amazing for winging it, I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, well, like the thing too, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, or maybe some, but like I said, I just did the transmission. I went through it and did it. I don't do like the motor stuff or whatever, but this short block this is the first time it's been out of the car since I installed it, like 3 years ago, probably 4 years ago or whatever. I mean, it's fine, it's been doing fine. So I don't do any like rings or bearings. I haven't messed with that yet, but I just kind of, I don't know, just like if I were to work on my truck or whatever, like I don't really know anything about it. I couldn't really do it. Mm-hmm. I'm very specific in my car or the 4G63 and the auto stuff in terms of my mechanic ability. I can, obviously I know like the basics of how, some things kind of work or whatever. Like I changed out a thermostat or whatever, but I'm not like a full-blown mechanic. Like I can't just go hop in I couldn't just comfortably do something on another car like I can on my car. So like I said, I think like I'm just real specific on my setup because I've taken it in and out about 9 million times. So
I think a lot of us can relate to that part for sure.
Right.
Well, I mean, the times that I have seen you run, you seem to be pretty consistent. So is there any mod or part in particular that's made running the 8s consistently or running consistently just a little bit more possible?
Yeah, for years I watched Jake Montgomery, and like he's out there winning every race and making passes and stuff. It's like, God, this guy like just never breaks. And even Aaron, I remember one time I went to World Cup with Aaron Gregory, and he broke his T case. And I'm like, all right, whatever, he's got a spare. He had a spare. He didn't have a 17 millimeter socket to take the thing off. He had no tools. I couldn't believe it. I was like, how could you not bring tools to the biggest race? He's like, I don't know, my car never breaks. I started bringing less and less. And like, as over the years, I was like, I just couldn't understand that, how he could do that. And then like, now I'm like at that point where, I mean, my car kind of, knock on wood, it just never really breaks at these races. I don't know, the car's tuned well. It's built, I think obviously, like I've got all the parts that, are offered to the point where like it's overbuilt, and the MR2 is the same way. We could talk about that if you'd like, but the MR2 has all the same transmission parts as this car, as my blue car.
Wow.
And it only makes 750. It's on a 6466. So I wanted to just overbuild the car as much as possible. Like it's got a Nexus R5, which is way overkill for any 4-cylinder, honestly. But it just, which doesn't really help reliability, but just I'm able to monitor a lot more things with it. And like I said, it's just, I stay on top of the maintenance, right? And I think
it does, in my opinion, it does add an aspect of reliability because it does have those fail safes too to keep everything.
Right. I mean,
alive.
like all the Haltex, or I think I mean, this car probably needs a little bit. I probably could have done with like an R3. I meant instead of like an R5.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I think I pulled off like 70% of the harness for the R5 because it's all like I don't know. There's like 40 and I don't know how many inputs, but a lot more than I'm using, and it just gets like there's a fine line between having the data available and then too much stuff to keep track of, and you kind of forget or whatever. But like, for instance, I monitor. I think I have like maybe four sensors on the transmission, pressure sensors. And honestly, I don't think I've never looked at them once. But if I ever have an issue, at least I know I can look at them and they're there, and I can look at previous logs and see like what it's supposed to be on a good pass and what it is now. So they're there if I need them. I don't, but yeah, I definitely miss. Kind of don't really look at a lot of it, but yeah. No, I do check over I change the transmission fluid and the oil pretty much after every race, so it's always fresh fluids. I just stay on top of things, I guess, and like I said, a little bit of luck, but yeah, the car is very consistent, makes passes. I think the best of for people that are trying to keep their car together is do the no prep stuff, because it's a lot less stress on the car. The 60 foots are slower. You're not like, I don't run all the boost. I mean, like on prep, I think I'm like 60 pounds in first gear, but on that I don't really see 60 pounds till third gear on the no prep stuff.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's a real slow ramp. I mean, it's in the 50s in second, but it's a very slow ramp in for the boost and the no prep stuff.
Well, Richard, you talked about being on the Haltech. Who's doing the tuning? Are you doing all that?
There's been I get made fun of quite a bit by I think a lot of people have been in that computer. It was originally tuned by Hal from Dynasty years ago. Did like the fuel and he did everything. And Kevin has been in there helping me out from Kigley. Most recently, Nick from Haltech has retuned the car on the 6785 and did the full tune on the MR2. So he's the one that I would say tunes the car. I've been doing all the trackside stuff, which is a big part of the program, right? And trying to get the car down the track. And so that's kind of, I wanted to learn that. I'm not going to go tune a car from scratch or whatever, but I know enough about my car now to make changes and stuff. Because in the beginning, I would like call somebody and be like, hey, this is what happened, help me out. Right. And now I'm pretty self-sufficient at the track. I do a lot of these trips solo for one reason or another, and so that makes things a little more challenging. But it's good. It's good practice to be able to do everything. So when you do have help, it goes a lot easier. But yeah, for me, like the track stuff is just mostly the boost ramp and like the nitrous on off and just a two-step. But a lot of like I said, a lot of the racing I've been doing just happens to be no prep stuff. It seems like it's the most races around me, really. Locally, it's more no prep stuff than anything, and it's also where I can be the most competitive. And so that's all like boost ramp. Right. How quickly can you get the power in without spinning? So that's, and I'll use like the G meter on the ECU and kind of just make sure that I'm holding that line and not dipping anywhere or whatever without spinning too much. But yeah, it's like I said, that it's fun and it's always a learning. I've made a million passes on the backside of Orlando, which in my experience is the hardest road to race on.
Oh, really?
People, you don't know, I have a road that I do a lot of my testing on here near my house, and it's a bare asphalt road that is unprepped, like I said, it's just a regular old road, but it was recently paved probably a year ago, and I've gone like 560s with like 140 something 60 foots, and I'll take that. If I take that same tune to Orlando, I won't go anywhere. Like the best 60 foot I've ever cut in Orlando was like a 157 or something like that, and I've gone a 593. My last pass I made there was the fastest pass I've ever made there, and the fastest pass I've ever heard of personally, I could be wrong, was a 580 something of anyone to ever race in the backside of Orlando. And like I said, that's what I heard. I don't know if people have gone faster or whatever, but I've been doing a lot of stuff, and like the people I talk to, they like the rear-wheel drive cars don't do 5 anything there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a real tough road to get down. So and it's challenging and it's fun, but it makes it like it's good because you don't need a lot of power to be competitive. Because
That's true.
I'm not using any of it, right? Like I'm running in the 40s for boost for most of the pass just to make sure that the car gets down the track. So it makes, in a world where drag racing is getting super expensive and very fast, the no prep stuff on a bad road really keeps the playing field leveler, because you can make 1 million horsepower, but you're not going to go anywhere with it. So I like that.
Put it down.
Right, I like that. Like a car, which like a DSM, how like at this point with the technology and stuff, it's pretty easy to, in my opinion, I think it's pretty easy to build like a 9-second DSM, and I think that would be that's a very competitive car there. So yeah.
Well, Richard, you've gone through a lot of parts and a lot of different setups on this car. Is there maybe something that you would change if you knew back then what you know now?
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably would say the same thing, in that I would have went straight to this setup instead of like the 19,000 other setups I did before this, and just threw money away at different things. And then, I'm staring at my 7275 that I bought for $2,600 or whatever that I can't sell for a penny. So, just the amount of money that I've spent on parts that I no longer own. So I just feel like it would have been nice to go straight to this, or borrow an all-wheel drive car in the beginning or something like that. But, I think on the other hand, I learned a lot going through all the different setups. And it was all part of the process to end up where I am now. And, I don't really have any time goals for the future, but, I don't know. I will see if the car can go 7s. I don't know if it can or not, but I do think that a mid 8-second car is a nice spot. Like a mid to high 8-second car is a really good spot to be for a DSM with the parts available to keep it together. Like I mentioned, Jake Montgomery, when he was winning all those IFOs and he was like, 820s and slower or whatever, it seemed like the car was like just really doing well. And then when he started to get more into the 7s, it seems like when he kind of started having some issues or whatever. So, I think that when you have like a 7-second car, it's more of a glory pass car than like a real competitive race car. Like even the super fast ones, they're just very hard cars to make competitive for like an entire weekend of racing, unless you have like a spare everything. In my opinion, just from what I've seen, I don't know.
Well, I'm thinking back to when you were, making 9-second passes. What was the biggest hurdle from bridging the gap from the 9 to the 8?
To be honest, I was going 9s front wheel drive. So once I swapped all wheel drive, I think my second pass all-wheel drive was like an 880.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, the car made power and stuff like that, and it was just a matter of getting it down. But I think there's various different reasons why people kind of, you know, it just comes down to the parts, really, right? Like people don't want to spend money or wire in a better ECU, like they want to stay on DSM link. They're on the wrong tire, so they're not able to. A lot of the problems, like the transfer case situation, you know, guys want to try to run stock transfer cases and are kind of limited on 60-foot times because they're on a stock T case, so that kind of holds people back. But like I said, if you have the parts, you know, and the power, it's a little bit easier to kind of get your way in there. But yeah, for me, it wasn't. It kind of sounds bad, but it happened. All my struggles were before the car was all-wheel drive, and then once it was all-wheel drive, it went eights like almost immediately. And then I went. I was like 860. I was stuck at 860 for a while.
Oh, wow.
For one reason or another, like the car would go like 860 at 160, then it would go like 860 at like 148 or something, you know, with like a problem or whatever when it was on a better path. And then finally, I mean, when I did that private rental like last year, it went 840, and that was my fastest pass, but the car had been in the 8s for years before I went faster than an 860. So
wow.
that was just, and there was just like one thing or another, like, you know, I don't really know. There's a whole slew of reasons why, but you know, whatever. But yeah, I feel like I'm curious to see what it'll do with this turbo on prep. I'm nervous about being able to leave 60 foot good because this turbo is like extremely lazy, and so. But once I get past the 60 foot, if I can get into like the low 130s even, I feel like it'll power its way to a better ET and mile per hour, you know, through the rest of the track.
Well, here's hope.
Yeah, right.
This episode of the MitsuTimes podcast is brought to you by Exigent Solutions. Exigent Solutions provides custom tools, parts, and accessories for the motorsports industry. Based in Cincinnati, Ohio, their services include CNC machining, mechanical design, rapid prototyping, and engine assembly. They are best known for their record-setting 4B11 builds. They have the parts and expertise to get your car up our list. Check out all their products and services at exigent-solutions.com.
Well, I mean, Richard, it took a lot of, setups, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to become the world's quickest auto 2G. And I know Kevin says it's a micro record, but as a 2G guy myself, that's pretty special. What, in your opinion, what did it take to get that record?
Let's see. I mean, it's obviously the parts, right? You know, it's nice to see that parts are still being developed for these cars and new parts. I mean, I hate to throw it out there, but I had a situation come up on me where now I'm selling oil pump gears, you know, straight cut oil pump gears, and so you know that like somebody kind of wanted to make them, but didn't couldn't get it done, and so I said, I'll do it, and so yeah, here we are. You know, I've been selling these straight kind of oil pump gears, and I'm running them in the MR2, and they're doing great. But I think like Kevin still developing parts for these cars, and others still developing parts, and people kind of still going through like the testing process and trying to figure out like the next best thing and pushing the platform farther. Really helps out, and for me it was, I think what expedited the process is having a better understanding of the tuning part
Mm-hmm.
and learning. So there wasn't like, hey, this happened, go to the track and do it, and then it didn't work out, and then kind of check back in with somebody and make a change and then go back to the track. And like I can, now like I can make those changes right there, one pass to the next, and then hope for the best, and hopefully it works and the car goes quicker and faster or whatever. But if not, at least I know, like I did this wiring harness. It's not the prettiest. I wouldn't sell it, but I know where everything is and how everything's wired.
Right.
And I did the majority of the fab work except for the manifold. So I know how everything's put together. And so like I said, like when things need to change, it's a little bit easier and it happens a little quicker because I kind of did it all. So yeah, I think that helps a lot. But yeah, the part, just the parts being available to go fast.
That's the first hurdle.
Yeah.
Well, Richard, would you say that your worst mechanical failure at the track was that 10th run on the Kigley prototype gear?
That was a pretty bad one. That one, man, it broke a tooth off the ring gear or something like that, which then jammed into the case and put a little pinhole in the case because like as the gear spun, like it just pushed it through the aluminum case. It unwelded the center diff. It twisted the yoke on the drive shaft. The T case made it, thank God, because it's a freaking billet gear T case, so that was a win. And so when I loaded the car on the trailer, it kind of was like they had to put it on the dollies because it was binding up because every time it would go through and then eventually it broke free when it pushed it down through pushed the chunk of the tooth through the. Oh no, it wasn't the ring gear. It was one of the spider gears.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that broke off. That's what it was. And so that little guy, yeah. So so I loaded the car in the trailer. I have a catch pan. It overflowed the catch pan.
Wow.
With all the transmission fluid because it started like pouring out, and like for whatever reason the tire deflated all the way. I don't know what happened there. So I'm sitting there. I get home and I open it, and there's just transmission fluid in the entire, like the whole trailer's covered in fluid. I got a flat tire, so that was a mess. Another time I had another wheel hop experience where I think like I broke a T case or broke something in the transmission, and the car over revved and blew the head gasket. Like was banging off the limiter or whatever. And so I go and look and like I get out, like I pulled over, get out and look and see, and there's coolant or water and transition fluid on the track. I'm like, man, I got this guy good. I don't know. So yeah, I although very early on in my auto days, I had some like road surge or something like that, some ship box, not a Force 4, but somebody else made one, 20 years ago or whatever. And when you initially powered it up, it would be in first gear. So it would default to first. And I guess I had a voltage problem because it dipped below like the voltage that this shift box needed to operate.
Okay.
So I went 1, 2, instead of going into third gear, the thing shut off, and when it came back on, it went into first gear. So at like 100 and whatever miles an hour, when it's supposed to shift into third, it went into first and overspun to like 12,000 RPM. It ballooned the converter, which pushed on the crank and crank walked it. So literally the only thing that was good from that incident was like the turbo. The motor was bad, and the head, I guess, but the block was bad, the transmission was bad, the converter was bad, the turbo was good, and the head was good. Yeah, so that was a rough one. But yeah, that was a good time. So yeah, I mean, there's plenty. I mean, I could sit here and tell you all about the carnage, asking anybody else, but I feel like that all the stories are probably the same for everybody. But yeah, it's been a lot of breaking, but a lot of good passes too. You know, I have hundreds of time flips from this car, hundreds, and
Right.
so it's done well, and I'm looking forward to we got the shootout coming up, and there's a bunch more stuff in the fall. So.
Good deal. Well, Richard, from the time you unload to the time you get up to the staging lanes, what's a typical race day like for you?
Yeah. So, well, it starts before that, right? For everybody, right? Like I luckily, I'm retired or unemployed. You could call it how you want. So I have time to load up the car. So I pack up the tools, and I bring whatever I'm bringing that day. I've got a list that I've added on to of things I bring to the track that makes it easy to pack. So I pack up the trailer and load up the car. A day, 2, 3 days, 4 days. It just depends on what I got going on, but usually earlier than last minute. I like to get everything in there, and I know the car's ready, and so I'll load up the car and go to the track and then try to take out as little as possible. Take it out as I need it type thing, so it's a little easier getting out of there. But I'll set up the tent and set up the car, and usually the car is full race ready when I get to the track. Right. I don't have to, it's fueled and fresh bottle of nitrous and all that, so just do the tire pressure and it's ready. It should be ready to race in theory. And then, and so, yeah, that gets set up there. But this car is got a couple, I just put on the vacuum pump and the nitrous stuff. It's on the Altec keypad, and that's pretty much it. It just cruise down the road just like any other auto car. And the Altec shifts it, and so just hold on and hope for the best and hope it doesn't break.
I was going to say, but you were one of the only really quick guys to not need a tow car up to the line.
Yeah. This car has an alternator, and at that point at the shootout, it was on a full-size radiator where, and when I'm idling or just driving, the transmission doesn't get warm at all, and so I could sit there and idle and drive for forever. Honestly, it's tempting to drag and drive this car because of how good the temperatures stay in line. But since then, I have gone to a smaller radiator with a new turbo, but even that, it still stays. It doesn't get warm at all. It's well within reason. I think I've seen 190 after a pass or whatever, but obviously still well within reason. But yeah, no, I never needed a tow car. A lot of the times, there's that. I get stressed. I get anxious because I want the car to be warm enough. For me, a lot of the stuff on the ECU won't happen until it gets to at least 150 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want it to be. I don't want to go to start the car when I'm second in line, and it's 100 degrees, water temp or whatever, and the transmission temp's 85. So I'd like to at least have it warm to a point. So I'll drive it around the pits and try to warm the brakes up a little bit too, and just get some fluids moving, and drive it up there, and whatever. It's a car. It's meant to drive. It's fine.
Fill it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, Richard, a minute ago you talked that you have hundreds of slips from this car, and probably hundreds more that you didn't get a slip for because they were, no prep or whatever. So
yeah.
What has been your most memorable pass that you've ever made in this car?
This car, memorable pass. The 840 obviously my quickest pass was a was like, you know, my best time, but you know, it was at a private rental racing against nobody. I used to race with Joe Bucci a lot, and so I would say we would always race each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was one of my really good friends, and we were always at the track together doing, you know, obviously in different classes, but still like we'd pit next to each other, and we would always end up racing each other. So yeah, I think like anytime I got to race him, was always memorable. Like, yeah, everybody knows him. He's such a great guy, and yeah. So that I think that, like I said, this car for me is not. The friendships are more important than like winning races or whatever. So you know, and Joe, like I said, Joe was a really good friend, and we were definitely. I mean, we were out at a lot of events. So that his last event, that streetcar takeover thing in Bradenton, I was working, or else I would have been there with them. But you know, a lot of this stuff, like all the local stuff, we were out doing together. So yeah, it's a shame. But yeah, you know, for Joe and even Tom before that, we were racing a lot, the three of us. But yeah, man, sucks.
Ain't nothing better than a Poochie memory.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Richard, do you ever have one of those sketchy moments at the track where it cuts right towards the wall or something like that?
Thankfully, this car goes pretty straight. No real issues. I think even with the no prep stuff, like one time I was in a lane in which there wasn't enough space for me to avoid the water. And so, like one of my back tires got water, and the car kind of did some things that you know wasn't supposed to do. Kind of like skated a little bit or whatever.
Right.
But it's very stable, and it definitely goes straight. When it spins, it doesn't do like, it's not like Devin where, you know, he's like skating down the track at 200 miles an hour. You know, it definitely isn't like that. It's very under control, at least up until now. But the MR2, I did a streetcar takeover in Gainesville and changed the nitro stuff a little bit and changed the suspension a little bit. The first pass I went like a 930 and rubbed the rear tire on the fender. So I raised the suspension and added a little bit more preload to try to keep it from swatting. And the nitrous, I don't know what happened, but I messed it up, and it was supposed to not be on when I let off the brake, and it was. So it got the boost ramped in a lot sooner, like 500 RPM sooner. Ooh. And it shot that thing to the moon. And it almost immediately went straight up. Scared the crap out of me. I've never done a wheelie before. I've only been racing the front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. Honestly, with that car, I like the burnouts are like, you'd think it'd be easy in an auto, but the way I have it set up is terrible, and I usually do bad burnouts or whatever. But yeah, I'm not used to the rear-wheel drive cars. That thing went straight up and did a nice wheelie and came down real hard, and so that was sketchy. You know, it wasn't like the wall, or I didn't spin out or anything, but you know, that's the sketchiest thing I have been a part of. Right. That, you know, the car going up in the air. It made for a good picture, but yeah, it was. I'm hoping not to do that again.
Right. Well, Richard, like you said, you go to a lot of events, a shootout, streetcar takeover, a lot of invitationals. Is there an event that stands out to you as the most fun to go to?
Yeah, so not with this car. Well, I like the no prep stuff. It's a really good group down here. I've been doing a lot of them through TRC, and so I like the guys. Like, it's all the same people at all the races, right? We're all just racing each other. I feel like it's like the Street Outlaws, you know, where it's like, you know, it's years of just racing the same people over and over again, right, or whatever. But it's fun because we're all like, right, like real tight, like similar speed cars.
Right.
So you really just need to there's no like it's not 8 second, 7 second cars and then me, a second plus off the pace. It's just everybody's right there. So that's fun. Those are fun races. But honestly, Sick Week. I did Sick Week last year in the MR2, and that was an incredible experience. Oh, wow. It's funny. One of my friends, he's like, "What? Name one thing that was like good." And I'm like, "I don't know, all of it. Literally, just all of it was fun. I don't know why. I can't like pinpoint one specific thing of Sick Week that was like, man, this is why this event's awesome." But the whole thing was just like such a cool, different experience. Like a lot of the events, FL2K and stuff, they're fun, but there's a lot of different classes. Mm-hmm. So there's just a lot of sitting around and waiting, and the shootout the same way.
Right.
Where you're, between all the people breaking and all the different classes, you make 2 passes, you're there for like 10 hours.
Right.
So, there's just a lot of downtime, inevitably. But with Sick Week, you like get to the track, you switch the car over from like street mode to race mode, and then if they're doing a couple other classes, you walk around, you get to look at everybody's car, you talk to the people about the things that they have been dealing with, whatever, you socialize. It's kind of like a car show, and then you go make a pass, and then you're out of there. You switch back over, and then you drive to the next place. Oh, wow. And so it's like and to build a car that can do like I finished, but we had problems with the car. Like the first pass I ever made with the car was day 1 of Sick Week. Oh, wow. MR2. So, jeez. Yeah, I messed that up. Had I been a little more prepared, I would have done a lot better, because now the car goes like 9.2, 9.3 every pass. But yeah, it went 10.0, like 9.6, 9.4, and then it started. Then I torched ahead, and then hit a couple safeties on the last day. So I didn't make a good pass the last day. But yeah, it just the experience and like how people are, and I don't know. I went with Kevin, rode with me, and so it was his first Sick Week. Passenger or driver, and it was funny because I have a touchscreen whatever radio in this car with CarPlay, right? And I see him over there like ordering a CarPlay, some radio for his truck or whatever. He wants to drag and drive his truck now. So if you see Kevin out there doing a drag and drive with his truck, it's my fault.
You're the inspiration.
I'm gonna take credit for it at least, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I'm sure if you ask him, it's the same thing. It was just a really cool event. It was fun. You're just always doing something, which I like. Where like a lot, like I said, like especially when my car is like running well, it's like, all right, well, I drained the catch can, it's got fuel in it. I added a little bit of oil or whatever, and now I got 6 hours until my next pass or whatever. So
sometimes at the shootout, like 2 days.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's, freaking cars break. I mean, last year was, it was rough.
Right.
It was like, someone would break, a car would make a pass, and someone would break, and someone would break, and a car would,
And some rain.
Yep. Yeah. So, that was, but yeah, the Sick Week, the drag and drive stuff, I would definitely recommend anybody who's on the fence. It is kind of expensive. Just because you have 5 nights of hotel rooms, and all, and just parts and fuel and whatever and food and all that stuff really adds up. Yeah, but if you budget for it, it's definitely worth it. It's funny because I brought with me a spare valve body, a spare cylinder head, and a head gasket, and what else did I bring? Like spare coils or something. I don't know. I just grabbed them off my blue car for that. And after the first day was in Georgia, at South Georgia Motorsports or whatever, and the car, like, we turned in at 10.0 and then drove. And while we were driving, just like cruising at like 60 or whatever, like at 11 o'clock at night, the car slipped into neutral. Oh, wow. And I thought I bumped the shifter. And so I'm like, oh, that was weird. I put it back in gear, or like put it in third or something and put it back in gear and shift to fourth, and it like locks up the tires. So I pull over, and it has no first gear. It's got second, no third, whatever. It had like only like one or two gears. And we pulled a pan, and one of the solenoids for the valve body was like in the bottom of the pan. It was like the two-piece solenoid. It broke off from the mounting tab. For, like, I don't know how. Like, I didn't even know they were two-piece, but it was like tack welded to the mounting tab of how it mounts to how it bolts to the valve body.
Right.
And so the solenoid just broke off and was hanging out in the bottom. Well, I had a spare valve body. So we didn't even switch out the valve body. We kept the same valve body and just put the solenoid, a new solenoid in. And that was it. Put it back together. I mean, it took a while to get there, but we ended up getting it at like 2:30 or whatever to Bradenton. That was a late night. And then everything was fine. The car made two good passes. It made a good pass in Bradenton. It made a good pass in Orlando. And then in Gainesville, I torched the head. It turned out that I have an Aeromotive brushless 5-gallon per minute pump in that car. And the table I had on Holtec, it was a stupid table, and it didn't need to be the way it was. And so really only one square of the table was important. It was like above 3,000 and above 5 pounds of boost. It needed to be on 100% duty cycle. And that one square was like 20% duty cycle or something like that. So it was on low speed the whole time. Well, we kept adding boost. And I found out that right about 43 pounds is where the low speed of the Aeromotive 5-gallon per minute pump can handle. And then anything above that, it started dropping fuel pressure. And my fuel pressure differential safety was a little bit too liberal, I guess, and didn't cut. Like, it was able to compensate fuel, but there wasn't enough pressure to fuel cylinder 4, I guess. And so it torched that. Well, I had the spare head, so we put the spare head on. The block was fine. And so, yeah, I used almost all my spare parts. I have no idea, why I figured it was like, I'm not going to change the transmission, so I'm not going to bring one. I don't have a spare for that car anyways. I don't have spare axles. I don't, I was like, these are the things that I'm willing to change that I have spares of. I'm going to bring them.
Just so happen to change all those things.
Right. And it's like, I feel like if you're planning a trip for Sick Week or whatever, or any drag and drive, like, what are you willing to change on the side of a highway? That's pretty much what you should bring. And if you're not willing to change it, then don't bring it and just call it a race.
Right.
If that's the case. So yeah, we changed the head, and then I thought it was like low fuel. And so we added fuel, and then I made a pass in Georgia, and the safety kicked in, and it cut fuel pressure, or whatever, and then that was the end of that. So I had to turn in like a 13-second slip, which killed my average. But anyways, yeah, so that was a hard lesson learned there, and an expensive one. But other than that, the car did really well for like a completely new build. And I'm hoping to do it again with the same car, and I know it'll do a lot better. It'll average 920. Part of me wants to put on the 72, 75. No one wants to buy this stupid thing and make it an 8-second car, but we'll see.
Is the plan
anyway,
to do 6 summer?
Well, it's going on right now, so no.
Oh.
But I would do any drag and drive I can get into anywhere in the country. They're so freaking hard to get into. The Sick Week sold out in like 90 seconds. I don't even know how I was like on the refresh, and then I happened to get it. I got it, but that was I tried to do what was the. I can't even remember. There was another one. Everybody was pissed because it sold out in like 10 seconds. not Six Summer, but Six Smokies, that one. With the Tennessee one, and they said it sold out in like literally 30 seconds or something like that. Like I don't know how many spots are available because they opened it up to like gas. I don't know, whatever. But there was, anyways. They're so popular. They sell out so quickly. So which is good and bad. It's good because it's good to see like racing doing well, but it's bad because I want to do it. So but yeah.
Well, Richard, you tried a lot of parts and done a lot of different setups. Is there a mod or a part that you would just never touch, even though a lot of DSM people swear by it?
Yeah, I think people are going to get pissed off. A manual transmission. I mean, it's a waste of time. Obviously, like at Boostin, they're doing it, and they've got it without, there's plenty of maintenance into the program. And, obviously, right, the car makes 1 million horsepower and is a 6-second car. Any 6-second car would require a lot of maintenance. But it's just, for the regular enthusiast, it's hard to take, like when I see a manual transmission DSM, it's just hard to kind of take them serious, like they're going to be a competitive racing. No offense to anybody manually racing. I'm sure there's plenty of cars faster than mine and everybody's going to get upset or whatever. But yeah, it's, they just, they are harder to make reliable, and unless you've got all like the right parts, it seems like they don't make consistent passes like the autos do, obviously. And the man pedal, whatever. I mean, I would love to like part of me would love to have a manual car, but I'm not going to do it because it just seems like a frustrating, problem to chase. The autos are hard enough. The manuals seem borderline impossible, right? Like, and a lot of like the faster guys, not boosting, but some of the other faster guys are like air shifted manuals or whatever, or like whatever. They're like, even like a sequential, it's like pretty much an auto, what's the difference, right? Like obviously Booston's like, he's rowing gears and all that with the dog box, but the manuals they're tough to get behind for me, which, whatever. That's my opinion. Sorry.
Richard, you kind of hinted at it earlier, but obviously there's a whole big, cult culture around the DSMs. How has the community impacted your journey with this car?
Yeah, I think it's kept me in the platform. I've met a lot of really cool people. I love when people come up and talk to me about the cars when I'm out. When I'm at races and stuff, I love talking about the cars. I love talking about my car and their car and sharing information. I don't have like any secret whatever about why my car works. Half the time I don't even know what it's doing. So there's no real, like, I'm actually a pretty terrible racer, especially the no prep stuff. I tell everybody my draggy times. I post it on my freaking Facebook page, like there's no secrets. Like I said, it's not serious enough for me to be like some grudge racer. So as far as the community goes, I'll share any information I have with anybody. I talk to a lot of people on Messenger and stuff, and try to give as much information as I have available to help people go fast, because I like racing these cars and I like racing with people. And so it makes going to these events a lot more fun when I'm racing with friends and able to share, problems and solutions and stuff like that. And so the community has been a big part of the reason why I kept on the platform, rather than kind of branching out into something else. And
right.
And I feel like even people that have moved on from DSMs for one reason or another, whether they're a shop and it just makes more sense to move on, to stay afloat, move on to something a little newer that more people are into. But you could always tell they're when I see people out, it's like, man, I had these cars when I was whatever, and I loved it, and man, it's like, yeah, me too. And unfortunately, I just never moved on. So,
I never grew up.
You're a lot smarter than I am because you have a 7-second, whatever LS twin turbo car or whatever, and I'm blowing up stuff in the 8. But anyways, yeah, I think I like a lot of people do appreciate, and even like on the TRC stuff, like when my car gets posted on TRC, you see like an overwhelming majority of people like, oh, DSM for the win type stuff, and people really like these cars, and I think that the people that have stuck with them kind of seem to really pull for each other, and I like that. And like I said, that's a big part of like the community is a big reason why I'm doing it. Yeah.
I know with the passing of Tom and Joe, of course, how is the Florida-based DSM community currently? Is it kind of withered away since their passing?
I mean, there's people who have the cars. I would say, me personally, the people that I raced with, one of my friends, I built like a 1G or whatever. I acquired a 1G, fixed it up a little bit, and sold it to one of my friends so we can race together. And so he's finishing up that car to get that back out there so we could start racing or whatever. And so, but yeah, I think that, there's people with them. But like as far as people I know, yeah, Joe was the main one that I was racing with. So I don't really have a tremendous amount of people that I'm racing with. Like I said, I do a lot of these things myself, or I'm meeting people there that are not local to me. Like I said, I've met a lot of people just doing these things that I'm friends with that are either that are local, that are into other 2J stuff. But I don't know, I race this Lexus IS 300 at all these no things. The guy beats me every time, but I've become friends with him and his whole crew and whatever. So that's been a lot of fun racing him and going back and forth with him. His name is Mike. So yeah. But as far as the DSM crowd goes, I'd say that there's probably better regions. It's funny, Kevin's got a real good group up there in Michigan or whatever, Warren and Scott. Yeah, Jeremy and Scott. It seems like they got a really good group. I was like, man, you guys should all move to Florida so it doesn't snow half the year. Come on down. But yeah, no, it's yeah, like I said, to kind of circle back, it seems like it's not as good as it could be. Right?
Well, Richard, you already talked about it a little bit, but why don't you tell us what's next for the build? I know you're prepping for the shootout, new turbo, new injectors. Are there any chassis upgrades?
No, the chassis probably gonna stay as is. I don't have any plans to add onto the cage. The good thing about Florida racing is it's actually really embarrassing, but when I did sick week, the tech is real strict. They check everything. And I thought I was fully prepared for the tech. And they're like, "Oh, where's your license?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's right here on the cage." I had no idea that this isn't, like I said, it's embarrassing to admit, but that I needed an NHRA license because no one's ever asked me in all my years of racing at all these events. I've never been asked for a hey, where's your NHRA license? I always just thought it was my cage certification or whatever. So when I was reading the rules on sick week and so they put me in the 10-0 group because you needed a license to run faster than 10-0, even though I had all the other safety stuff.
Oh, wow.
Cage, whatever. And so they're like, well, you can get your license on day 0 testing. We can do your licensing runs. I was like, oh, cool. Well, day 0 got rained out. So they're like, okay, we need 3 time slips of you running slower than 10-0, and and then like 2 faster than whatever it is. I don't know, 9 something. So, well, I'm like, well, I'm in South Georgia. I live in West Palm. I don't have freaking just a bag of time slips sitting around or whatever. So I had my wife send me some time slips, which I printed out at the hotel until I got like the right size of a time slip.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this was a disaster. Yeah, and so I brought them to them, and they're like, "These are printed time slips. These aren't the originals." Like, like looked at me like I was a moron. So then so they said, "Look, we can do this. Just overnight time slips to the California headquarters or whatever, and we'll do it." I'm like, okay, that's a lot better. So we did that. Eventually got to that point, and so I was able to run faster than. So I was like, man, I better run faster in 10.0 for all this,
all the work you put in.
all the stuff I just went through, and luckily the car went faster in 10.0. But the first pass I went 10.0, I was like, oh, geez.
Wasted it all.
But no, yeah. So that was, but like, and I said, so the chassis is staying the same. It's fine. They don't, like, they're pretty lenient about, it's got an 850K at 10 point. The setup, it just got modified. I added the Tigley straight cut planetaries, the Quafe LSD, and then the turbo setup is all relatively new. So I'm going to leave it alone, hopefully, for a little bit. I wanted to do the 67 because I wanted to get like I just built this car with no clear path to what I was going to do with it, which I would recommend people not doing. Because then you have a car where you're not competitive in anything, right? And you're just racing for nothing.
Right.
Like, if you want to, go to events, pick an event that you want to go to, look at the rules, and then build a car that you feel like you can be most competitive for at least that event. So there's one event. Like the shootout, right? Like the Street 32. So now I have the best turbo that you can get for the Street 32. Well, I put these stupid fiberglass quarter panel block offs, so that are not legal for the Street 32 class. I got to take those off and figure out a way to make Lexan look like a factory window or something, right? Which is going to look terrible, and I don't know, but that's what I got to figure that part out for almost no weight savings. I want to glue this stock window right over them so I can just take it off. But anyways, yeah. So, but that was a bad idea because, I want to run the Street 32 in the shootout. I don't want to run the quick class, and that's the only thing holding the car back from Street 32. I ran it last year, and I didn't even know. I didn't even think of it. And Tony Marks actually was like, "Oh, your car's not legal." I'm like, "What do you mean?" "Yeah, it is." He's like, "No." He's like, "I mean, it's not a big deal, but those fiberglass things are illegal." I was like, "Oh man, I didn't even think of it." So I appreciate him letting me know. So now I can make sure that the car, when I win, nobody can complain about it. You know. So yeah. But as far as the car, there was a class last year at FL2K. It was like Nitro versus the World, where it was, if you had a 67, your car had to weigh 2,700 pounds, which my car weighs 2,710 or something like that, with me in it. So I was like, oh yeah, I got this class. If I ever want to do World Cup, I could do, limited street, whatever, like the 67 class. Right. I'd have to run like an 809, but whatever. At least I got the turbo for it. Mm-hmm. Well, they got rid of that class at FL2K and picked up like a side-by-side class or whatever. Yeah. So that was a bummer because now I'm back in all-wheel drive with 7-second GTRs on like a sportsman street, and then so World Cup is still out there or whatever, but it's super fast and it's not something that I've really ever had my eye on, and still the shootout. So and like this setup, like I said, the car is mostly no prep now, and so I could still use this turbo to no prep and whatever. Like I could use any turbo to no prep, any setup. So anyways, but that's the story behind the new setup now. Is I was kind of like trying to pick an avenue in which I can actually try to start being a little competitive at the races rather than just a donation.
Richard, you talked a lot about buying the right parts and overbuilding. What advice would you give someone who's just starting out in their DSM drag racing, walk in life?
Yeah, I mean, I think have fun, and I think it's very important to build within your means, right? This all comes down to money. Like you've got to build a car that you're comfortable breaking that part. Like just the reality of it, like this, like, I don't know how this is going to come out, but I mean, these parts are not that expensive, compared to other platforms, one of my friends has an Audi R8, an Audi R8 or whatever, and it's, he's like, oh, it's like a $50,000 transmission or whatever. It's like, okay, that's something that I wouldn't be comfortable breaking. I wouldn't be happy about that.
Right.
This transmission, I've broken it plenty, and it's, it's not fun, but it's also not that big of a deal.
Right.
Like I was fortunate enough to do well in baseball, and I can definitely afford to break anything on this car. So that's good. So I would say that anybody that is looking forward to building a DSM, pick a setup that's within your budget, and that it's still going to be fun. Like, everybody wants to build a race car until you actually build a race car, and then you realize how not that much fun it is, because it's just a constant pain in the ass. So, and then they all want to make their race cars street cars, or build a street car like I did, because their race car, you can't drive anywhere, and
right.
You want to drive the car. So yeah, that is, and like I just said, like I said before, just like have a plan and stick with the plan. So if you want a 400 wheel horsepower street car, stick with it, and then you can overbuild for that. You don't have to use 800 injectors or whatever. Like, you can overbuild, so it's a very comfortable 400 wheel horsepower, and your car is going to be reliable,
mm-hmm.
and last for a long time, and you're going to have fun with it. But like, a lot of guys want to just go all in and kind of like and skimp on some parts or whatever, and that's when it's not fun, because that's when you really have problems with everything or whatever. And learn how to weld. That's a big that's been very useful. I'm not good at welding, but I'm good enough to do certain things, and that's become very useful.
Good enough to get you back out on the road.
Yeah.
Well, Richard, what mistakes do you see a lot of new racers making, whether it's DSMs or not?
Yeah, I think like, kind of like biting off more than they can chew, right? Like, kind of shooting for the moon when they're not quite there yet. Either knowledge base or like, I always felt like I had more money than knowledge. And so, like, and the car had the parts, but I wasn't doing what I felt like it should be doing, because I just wasn't able. I just didn't know enough. Like, I built too much car for what I knew, and I feel like I'm caught up a little bit, where like I know a lot more now, just like on the tuning side and how to make things work a little bit better. But the car, I felt like the car underperformed for a while, especially when I was front wheel drive, and I just couldn't get it to work, and I just didn't really know where to go with it, because I just didn't know. And like I said, I bought all these parts because I was able to, and it, I don't know, it was a disaster. So anyways, but yeah, I mean, just build what you're comfortable building, I'd say.
Okay. I know, Richard, you already talked about attending the shootout in the Street 32 class. Are there any other events that you plan to bring this car to this year?
Yeah, so that's in September. October, the first week of October, I'm bringing both cars to FL2K. So that's going to be interesting, because I've never done that before. I don't even know how I'm going to get them there yet, but I've got they're registered, so we're going. There's a bunch of no prep things in October and November. What else was there? I would love to do sick week again with the MR2.
Mm-hmm.
If I can get, I'm going to try to get in. Just, but I'm always looking for things. I try, the streetcar takeover stuff was, I don't know if any, that was my first one I did. And it reminded me a lot of IFO, but a lot better. So I would do that again. There's actually one, the end of this month in Charlotte that I was thinking about going to, but I got family stuff going on, so I'm not doing that one. But I just want to race as much as possible. My last year of playing was this was my first year not playing.
Right.
So I haven't been able to, like, last year. I played like a quarter of the season and opted out, and that was it, done. And the year before that, my first year going to the shootout ever, 2023, I ended up getting released in August by the Red Sox. So it was, I was like, I got released, and my season was pretty much over. It was pretty late in the year, so I was like, oh man, I'm going to go to the shootout. I've never been, and this is my first opportunity to go. I played 17 years. So, I start my first year of professional baseball was 2008. So that I'm trying to just do things, within. I got 2 young kids, but right. So I gotta make sure that I'm home and present for that. But yeah, I just want to, whatever comes up, I'm always looking for stuff, I guess. But so far, the shootout, and then in FL2K, I've got tickets for, and then, like I said, there's some. I think there's a no prep, another TFC no prep in November, I think, and I don't know, whatever. Those things come up, and I'll go to them. Usually, the car is always ready. Like, the only reason it's not ready right now is I took it apart, but
right.
That's the thing. Like that Cletus thing, that Cletus all-wheel drive thing I did. So the Javier from TRC, I've known since high school.
Oh wow!
And he was I'm good friends with him, and that's why I'm like, I mean, I get to do all these TRC things or whatever. But he called me up the day before, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to do this? Can you fill in for me?" I'm like, yeah, I'll have the car and I'll be there. What time? The car's ready to go. I'll be there. I'll go test the car right now, and I'll be there. I can leave whenever. And so that's how that worked out. And I had the car on radials, which was stupid. I wish I would have put the car on slicks. The car actually would have been pretty competitive had I been on slicks. And like if I were able to, well, not the last one, they were a lot faster, but that one, the cars were fast, but I would have been able to keep up with. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have been the slowest car there. I wasn't the slowest car there, but it just didn't work out. But anyways, I feel like I could be fairly competitive. I don't know what those guys ran there. Did you watch the last one?
I watched a little bit of it, but I know that the first one, I mean, it looked like you were going to kill that truck if you didn't, whatever happened on the launch.
Right. So, unfortunately, I'm sure it was my fault, but I thought he was going to bump me in more. Mm-hmm. Like I was like idling, and I thought he was going to like bring me in, like physically bring me in. Like they kept using the term "bring me in," so I thought there was more movement forward. Well, I moved forward, and he thought I was pushing through the brakes, or he thought I was. So he just hit the light. I was like at like 3,000 RPM and like 2-3 pounds of boost. Mm-hmm. And like almost wasn't going to go, and I left. But I made a pass before that. I had a buy, and I went like a 570 or something like that, which was pretty good for no prep. I made a pretty decent pass. I made the first pass of the thing, and like all those other guys weren't. I don't know what they were running, but it would have been competitive. And I don't know if I would have beat that truck, but I would have at least liked to have gotten a good race off. Yeah, it kind of sounds So, you know,
It looked like you had caught him or were catching him right there at the end.
I mean, I don't know. The car looked like such a turd, and I was so late on the light just because I was like, I'm like stalling the car, and I look up and the light's on. I'm like, what the? All right, we're going. Not how I had it planned. But anyways, yeah, you know, whatever. So anyways, that was Limpy on the light, and so every time I see him now doing the lights, he's always make sure that I'm ready. It's funny, he messes with me now about being ready and whatever. And also, like, twice I've gotten by runs with him, and he does like this chop, like, okay, like don't move, and I always, like, for whatever reason, I feel like the chop is like a, you know, like in Fast and Furious when they do like the arm chop and you go.
That's right.
And so I just go.
I never drew that correlation.
Yeah, and so I just go on the chop. Thankfully, I've only done it on the by runs, and so he gives me a real hard time about making sure I go on the light. But yeah, whatever. Yeah, you know, I just learn every time I'm out there, and those were kind of earlier in my no prep days. So it was a couple of years ago already, or maybe it's 2 years ago. And so yeah, it's all whatever. It's fun. It looks stupid, but who cares?
Right. I mean,
at least I'm out.
Everybody's out there.
Yeah. Well, but anyways, yeah.
Richard, you said a couple times, you know, you're not a big grudge racer or anything like that, but is there anybody that you want to, you know, friendly call out this season?
Let's see. Who do I want to race? Well, I'm sure that. So I think the Street 32 class was real competitive, and it was a good group of guys last year at the shootout.
Mm-hmm.
So I beat Tony Marks, but because he broke. So I would love to race him again. He's got a full-blown pro mod now it looks like a tube chassis car with I thought I had all the parts, but he's got parts I've never even seen before. So it's going to be really tough to beat him. The only thing that I have over him is I got a shop that actually had that in a lift where he's working in the gravel of like a junkyard or something. I don't. So, but other than that, he's got me in every other avenue in the car. He's got the lighter car in the 1G, and he's got tube this, tube that. So, you know, I think it'll be a good race. Hopefully, maybe we'll race in qualifying at the shootout. It seems like he's got that problem figured out of whatever he was breaking. Input shafts, I think. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it was a converter problem or whatever. So, you know, we'll give it another go, I'm sure. But other than that, no, you know, anybody, you know, any DSM they're all fun to race, right? Everybody's fun. Whatever's fun. Whoever wants some, no big deal to me.
Well, you talked plenty about the 4G63 MR2. I hope we can do an episode later on and dive deep into that because that's pretty cool, especially it's out doing wheelies even if you don't want it to.
Yeah, that's got a lot of, I'm learning a lot about that, and that kind of, you know, trying to figure out how to make an IRS work with a radial car, not knowing anything about how to make radials work. I mean, I'm like trying to figure out the best way to keep the front end down, but the car to 60 foot. And it you know, it went at 138. It was a high 1.3 car, which I feel like for a bottom 9-second car, that's a pretty deep. You know, I don't expect a 920 car to 60 foot in like a 115. You know,
Whoa, yeah.
So I feel like a 130 something 60 foot is pretty good. I got a ride height sensor that I haven't installed that I'm hoping will improve the times and keep the front down. So like a you know, if it starts to see the car go up, it shuts the party down. Okay. But yeah, it's got a lot of different things, you know, because I built the car with drag. Like I said, like build the car with a purpose. So I built that car for drag and drives. Right. I drive the car on the street a lot. It doesn't have air conditioning, but it's got a lot of other things that make that situation a little bit easier. It's still loud and whatever. At the end of the day, like, it could be the nicest thing in the world. It's a friggin' 93 MR2, How nice can it be? I'm 6'3". My head sticks out the T-top. But anyways, it's fun, whatever. It's fun. Yeah. But, yeah, we can talk about that car whenever. Yeah, like I said, I enjoy talking about it. I don't think that it's going to make it to the shootout. I don't, just because I have no idea how to get, I don't have enough truck to get two cars up there. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to take them on an open trailer. So, but it would be cool to get both cars up there. I don't, and they probably could run in the same class, Street 32. So
that would be pretty sweet.
But anyways, maybe another year. Yeah, no, that's a cool car. It's a really nice looking car. I gotta paint it still, but they're just good looking cars. And obviously it seems like as popular MR2s have gotten, with the Ks and all that. It's funny, like when people come up and they're like, "All right, what's in it?" And it's like, I'm like, "It's not what you think." It's just, we'll start with that, and then try to take a guess. And,
right.
And the guesses are always wild. Never a 4G63. And so that's been entertaining to kind of, I don't know, people think whatever. Who knows? Anything and everything people put in there, I guess. So
it really does seem to be one of those things where you never know what's going to be back there.
Yeah, I don't know if you got to get Kevin on there, and then you can ask him. You got to get Kevin on the podcast and ask him about it, and then we can get the true answer about what he thinks about how streetable it is and everything. We did have to wear earplugs, but it wasn't for the. I had full intentions of running the exhaust out the back, as there's no space for it. Mm-hmm. So it's out the side, and it's not the exhaust that's loud. I mean, the exhaust is loud, but the straight cut gears are probably the worst. Yeah, he which I said we could talk about this more, but he built the transmission for me, which I don't know if I'm supposed to tell anybody or not, because I know he doesn't want to build transmissions, but and he did the same transmission that the Laser had with the 4-shift.
Oh, nice.
And welded the straight cut gears. Yeah, very nice of him. I guilted him into it. So but he did that. So yeah, it's got that. But the straight cut gears are very noisy. Much noisier on that car for whatever reason than the blue car. So I don't know. It's weird, but they seem to be working fine. I don't know.
Well, Richard, where can people find and follow you on social media and get some more, of this blue 2G and see what kind of racing you're doing?
So I started like a RSB Racing Facebook page just because at the time I started it, I was still playing, and I just was keeping my, it's very easy. Nobody cares about baseball who's into cars, and nobody cares about nobody cares about DSMs who's into baseball. So there was literally no overlap. I think there was probably been like 5 of my car friends that have ever seen me play baseball, I would say. A couple people, like Kevin came to a game, or maybe a couple games. Scott Frazzo came to a couple games, and Joe came to a bunch of games in Tampa. And there's probably a few others, but that's it. But almost no overlap. So it really wasn't a big deal. But I made that Facebook page anyways, just for the car and just to post updates. So that's RSB Racing. And now it's kind of morphed into the oil pump gear sales page. And, like more of like a business page, I guess.
Right.
Without really, I don't know. I don't know how to run a business. I don't have like, people are like, "Oh, where can we buy these?" I'm like, I don't know, just send me money and I'll send them to you. I don't know. Sorry. But yeah, so far, no complaints about that. See if I've been shipping them next day. So, and then I also have Instagram, and that started as my, like, they kind of, in baseball, they kind of encourage you to try to build your brand. Well, it turns out that a middle reliever that's very generic doesn't have much of a brand to offer, and so I didn't really do a good job with that. But anyways, I have an Instagram. I just started. I posted maybe one thing about the car, which was a big step for me, because the car was very private. I had my race friends who knew about the car, and then my baseball fans or whoever, nobody else knew about the car. My co-workers, like my teammates and stuff, nobody knew about the cars in baseball, and just kind of kept them separate, which wasn't really a big deal, like I said, because no one cared on either side. So I made, I started sharing to Instagram with the car, and I need to probably do a better job. But at the end of the day, I just really don't care that much about social media or being somebody or whatever. I kind of just share so my friends can keep up or whatever, and
like a vlog almost.
Yeah, like it's like I don't really have, I don't know, aspirations of like, I don't know, being some social media icon or whatever. I don't know, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's just not really my thing to be Instagram famous. I don't really care about it. So, anyways, that's that. But I do enjoy Facebook and talking with all the people on Facebook and being a part of the groups and whatnot. So.
Well, yeah. At the end, I always give people a chance to give a thanks or a shout out to anybody who's helped them along the way, anybody who's helped get their car where it is. Is there anybody that you want to give a thanks or shout out to?
Yeah, I think actually I'll start. Shane from ASAP Performance, which is not even a company anymore, and he's not even local anymore, but he was the one that really helped me pretty much when my car cranked walked when it was a manual car, pushed me into building the motor and all this stuff. But taught me a lot early on in the early days, and then lately it's been Kevin and Aaron at Kigley Racing. They've been a huge help. It's funny because I asked them, I was like, am I considered a sponsored car at this point? I run all your parts or whatever, and they're like, yeah, I guess so. But I tell them, like, I don't want any deals on any parts. I want to pay full price for everything because, Kevin's knowledge is more than enough to help the way. I don't need, so that's, I always try to sneak payments in and stuff like that. When I buy stuff. But Kevin has been a huge help. Believe it or not, Aaron Gregory has helped me along the way, which is shocking because he's people don't know, but he's kind of an asshole. Don't let him fool you. No, I'm just kidding. He's great. He's helped me out a lot with problem solving things, just in general, whatever. He knows a lot about these cars. He's built a couple transmissions for me. At least one, I think. I don't know. And just problem solving a lot of the stuff. He's been in the ECU. I don't know if I mentioned him earlier. He set up the CO2 wastegate control stuff on this car. But yeah, he's helped me out a lot. Nick from Haltech tuned the car, and has also sat on the phone with me problem solving some things for this car and a couple other cars, or help me out with some friends' cars as well, so that's good. But yeah, I think anybody and everybody who is still making parts for these cars and still racing the cars is helping everybody else by, if there was nobody racing, nobody would make parts, and then we couldn't do it. The people that are still doing it. So yeah, exactly. And so I think I know like like the shootout. The last 2 years were my first 2 years, and like I've been seeing posts about, the shootouts getting worse, blah blah blah. Well, these last 2 years, especially 2 years ago, the freaking thing was full. So I couldn't believe how many people were there. And last year too. I'm curious to see how it is this year. I know, things are a little different or whatever, but whatever. We're not to get into that, but. It definitely was eye-opening to see how many people still mess with these cars, and that's good. People ask me like, is there a market like the gears or whatever? I'm like, I feel like there is. People, and I think too now it's like the same kind of situation where it's not like 18-year-olds or whatever. Like broke 18-year-olds who are, spray painting their cars or whatever, like that. It's people who had these cars and now are a little bit older and get them and are willing to spend money and do them right. And that was the thing, like the shootout. I'm like, man, like these cars are clean. There's like the junkers are gone. I don't see any junkers here or anything like that. It's like all like well put together for the most part, right? Like well put together cars that people like care about, and it's not just like
Tony Marks.
Right. His is still spray painted, but still like it's a decoy because when you peel back the spray paint, you've got freaking just full blown pro mod. He's got more money in his car than anybody else combined, probably. So it he's got like probably like parts that we don't even know of. Custom this, custom that, custom spec, yeah. So I mean so even him, right? Like he it's like it's a trick. He's trying to bait you into like, oh, this car's got nothing. It's painted, but he's winning car shows with the car even. So maybe it's just I didn't take a good look at it, but maybe it's really like a high end paint job, just matte green. I don't know. I didn't even look at it that hard. I didn't see him that well behind me. I don't know. So no, he's good. I talked to him fairly consistently on Messenger and stuff, and so that's why I can give him a hard time about his full blown pro mod build. Yeah, but yeah, so that was good to see. It was good to see people like still trying to build the cars, and like I said, I feel like that is that's an important part of this whole thing. People still going for it.
All right, well, Richard, thank you so much for taking the time to come on here and tell your story. And, I can't wait to see some more updates from you. I'm really crossing my fingers for that 7-second slip.
Yeah, I don't really. That's not I mean, it would be awesome just to say it, but like I said, I think when you get to a certain point with these cars, it doesn't become fun anymore. Right. And I think that is probably close to that point. Not that much fun anymore. It would be cool to do. Well, it's funny. I'm not gonna just very quickly, but when the car was going 9s, it'd be like, man, that would be cool to do like an 899, right? And then just like get back out of there. Get in for a second and then get back out real quick. Just to say you did. Now I'm like, man, it would be cool to just go, click off a little 799 and then that's it. Like just move on from the 7s altogether and just not be interested in ever doing it. Don't look back. So, yeah, well, we'll see what happens. Right now, I just want to get the car back together and get it running and get it dialed into the shootout and, just continue to make consistent, good passes down the track, drive back on the trailer, that kind of thing.
I'll definitely be rooting for you at the shootout, and, can't wait to see you again.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Of course. Have a good one.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the MitsuTimes podcast. Check out our Instagram and Facebook for daily updates. Get added to our list by going to MitsuTimes.org and clicking Submit a Slip. Thank you to all of our sponsors.